this live stream with 19 likes already. Thank you very much for hitting that like button. This is going to be a pretty good video for the most part. It's all theory, opinion. There is no facts that are taking place right now because there is no sovereign wealth fund that has been created. There has been an executive order signed by Donald Trump, what was it, yesterday, the day before, talking about the creation, the plan to create a sovereign wealth fund. Like, it's kind of like using the analogy, we plan on creating this house, we're going to build a house. What we need first is the blueprint. So he has given an executive order to create a blueprint, not the actual house, right? Not the actual sovereign wealth fund, but the plan to create a sovereign wealth fund. So right now, these officials, the administration, the Treasury Secretary, they are working on a plan for the sovereign wealth fund, not the sovereign wealth fund itself, right? That's a whole other decision that needs to be made. You have to sign that into existence. But right now, it's the plan to do it. So I want to thank Clear Value Tax. Very good YouTube channel, does really good information, and he left a pretty good, or he just recently did a pretty good video talking about the sovereign wealth fund. So I wanted to link some of I linked it down in the description, and then I wanted to talk about some of the timestamps on there that talk about this whole idea of a sovereign wealth fund and what that can really mean. So starting off right at the very beginning of the video, and again, he cuts in and out of the actual signing of this executive order from Donald Trump, but 30 seconds into the video, he says, again, this is, the idea behind it, right? Hopefully will result in a sovereign wealth fund. Hopefully result in. That means it's not existing yet. So it's very important to understand that part, because this means it's a credible threat until it actually comes to existence. At a minute 20, this is the critical information. At a minute 20 into the video, and again, there's a link down in the description to it, it's quoted as saying this, and this is coming directly from the Treasury Secretary. It says this: "We are going to monetize the asset side of the U.S. balance sheet. We are going to monetize the asset side of the U.S. balance sheet." So they are going to take the assets of the United States and they're going to monetize that. Does anybody know what that means? Like, they didn't clarify it. Typically, monetizing it means that they're going to liquidate it. They're going to sell it. And then what is it that they're going to do with this, right? They're going to create the sovereign wealth fund. And this is somewhat of an account of investment, right? So basically it's an investment opportunity for the government itself, right? So it's a vehicle of investment, the sovereign wealth fund. And so what are they going to do after they have liquidated, essentially, or monetized, as their words go, monetize the asset side of the balance sheet? Go and listen to 2 minutes and 30 seconds into the video. Donald Trump himself says the possibility of buying TikTok. And now I understand that a lot of people would look out there and say, hey, TikTok's huge, it's a great investment, it'll make all kinds of money. Okay, that's one way of looking at it, and I kind of agree with it. But then he also goes on to say at 2 minutes and 44 seconds that or partnership with wealthy people, very wealthy people. And now, if you go and you listen to some of the other statements, and I don't, again, like, Clear Value Tax kind of goes into this later in the video, talking about buying into Bitcoin for this sovereign wealth fund. Okay, so now let's just reel it back for just a minute. Again, this is all hypotheticals because none of it actually exists yet. But the idea behind it is that the administration wants to take the assets of the United States, liquidate those assets, then buy TikTok, which is essentially giving that money to China to buy an app, to buy TikTok. Like, of all the things in the entire world, TikTok? All right. Like, I'm not a fan, right? So I think that this isn't a good deal, but maybe somebody else out there actually thinks that's a good idea. Okay, well, what do I know, right? So they're going to go and throw all this money at China to buy TikTok. And then What else are they planning on doing? It taking a bunch of money and partnering up with very wealthy people. Here's some more of this money, since we're partnering up with you after we have liquidated all the assets here in the United States. Here's the money to the wealthy people, because that's exactly what Donald Trump said he was going to do. At 2 minutes and 44 seconds, his own words. This isn't me making it up or trying to interpret it. This is what he said. Partnership with very wealthy people. Okay? And then what else is possibly going into the sovereign wealth fund? Bitcoin. Okay, so now I'm not a denier of Bitcoin. I buy Bitcoin, like I like Bitcoin, but I have very little expectations of Bitcoin. Like I don't believe it to be a new form of world reserve currency. I don't expect it to be some outrageously awesome asset that's going to change the way the economy is working. I buy Bitcoin because I believe it's a great speculation that many people are going to get into, and it's very limited, and the possibilities of it going up are quite extreme, but I have very little faith inside of it. So Bitcoin is not a good investment, not in my mind. Great speculation, as long as you don't put too much into it and have very little faith in it, then okay, Bitcoin would be an okay thing to go. Very wealthy people, do they really deserve more money? I mean, do you remember trickle-down economics from the Reagan administration? Did that work out really well for the American people? I mean, I hear constant complaints even today about the trickle-down theory from the Reagan economics and Bush-era economics from 20, 30 years ago. Right? I mean, even more than that. People are... that is not a very well-received process to take money and give it to the wealthy. And then the idea that they're going to liquidate these assets and then hand the money over to China for a freaking app like TikTok? Does any of this make sense? Any of it at all? I look back on some of the times that I worked for a company. I worked for 2 failed lumber yards. I watched them go bankrupt. 2 separate companies go through that process. You know what ends up happening is that these people who come in who are pretend managers, right? They act like, hey, we know what we're doing. We're really smart. We're managers. They come in and they say, hey, what assets do you have that are worth the most? Because we plan on liquidating those things. They didn't say it outright, but that's exactly what they were doing. You know, very similar to what I'm seeing taking place right now. The idea of creating this sovereign wealth fund and then selling off, monetizing, liquidating the US assets so that you can hand the money to China for an app like TikTok? Does that sound like smart? I mean, just say it. Say it outright. I'm going to take my assets, sell them, hand it to China, and then in exchange, I'm going to have this worthless app like TikTok. Okay. See, this is one of the reasons why I don't get into politics, is because none of this stuff is existing. Somebody asked me to please talk about the sovereign wealth fund. This is what I came up with. I don't believe the sovereign wealth fund will exist anything like what I'm describing right now, because all of this is hypothetical. Every single bit of it. The executive order has been signed to create the plan for a sovereign wealth fund. Whether or not that plan actually comes into existence is a whole other story. It's very much in line with the corporate debt lending facility. The corporate debt lending facility was well pushed out there as far as the information. Everybody was flipping out about it. I know, I was one of them, right? I was one of the YouTubers out there saying the Federal Reserve was going to be picking the winners and losers by buying into corporate debt with the special purpose vehicle and the hundreds of billions of dollars, and the unusual and exigent circumstances of COVID giving them that permission. Like, I was one of those people out there. The corporate debt lending facility hardly operated anything at all. It was created, it was funded, but they hardly bought any corporate debt with it. I mean, they bought a little bit, established that credible threat, but it didn't do anything like anybody was talking about. It didn't do it. It just sat there essentially idle. All right, 10 minutes into this one. Let's talk some of these comments down here. Let's start with Deja Vu. Thank you so much for being here. They can revalue gold. Problem solved. We just don't have enough. This is Trump's playing games. I totally agree with you. That's just your algorithm. You can fix what you're seeing. All right. Did Simon run this rant past Elon before posting? Hell no. You know, I didn't think I care what Elon has to think. You know? All right. It's rare that an autocratic government can actually govern effectively, but I'll admit it seems like China is an exception to the rule. They're not perfect, but overall they're doing an okay job. You think China's doing an okay job? I mean, they're like, there's people. Okay. That's okay. That's a matter of opinion, and we'll just let you have that. All right. X is a propaganda tool too. It's everything is a propaganda tool. I don't care. I don't care what it is. All right. Every single bit of it is even these videos are propaganda tools because Google will only spread that of what it is that you want, that they want the information to be heard. Like if I'm a good Googler and I listen to Google and I spread the misinformation like Google wants, my videos will take right off. Like I can have hundreds of thousands of views on my video if I just fall in line with the narrative. I don't know how many people realize that. Like I go against the algorithm. I go against the narrative that is out there. And because of that, I don't get picked up by the algorithm and spread around. If I was to spread the misinformation, the doomsday scenario, a lot of the stuff that you see out there, especially that of like inflationary targets and stuff, I would have all kinds of views on it. But because I go against the narrative, the algorithm says, no, I don't think so. You know, you got to be a better Googler than that, and we'll actually pay you to spread misinformation. It's sad, but it's true. You know, and I know how to do it. I could do it. I see other people doing it, and I think, man, why don't I? Because I have more pride than that, I guess. I don't know. I heard recently that the currency of the future will be relationships of trust. Thoughts? I don't know. I mean, it all comes down to trust anyway, right? You might as well sell out, right? That's kind of what I figured too. All right, I would have to see the actual algorithm to confirm that. Okay, well, I mean, I've tested it many times in my own, right? I've seen it for myself. If I go through and found the narrative that is being communicated out there, especially one that is hitting in multiple channels at once, right? And it's a very common theme that is being pushed out there. If I find that and I title my videos in line with that, it does so well. It does so well, right? But you have to see it. You have to be able to recognize it, right? And that's part of it, is just like, you know, pretty soon, if one was to do that on a regular basis, then what would end up happening is that you would be an information channel literally for the spreading of propaganda, because you would be getting paid. The more you get paid, the more you would want to do it, right? And this is one of the reasons why I just don't push for money, is because I would end up trying to push information out there that would get me more money. And by doing that, that means I have to fall in line with the things that they are trying to communicate out there. And if I can recognize that, I would do very well. Especially if I put a bunch of fear and anxiety-based information behind it, it would do incredibly well. And I know because I've done it. I watch other people do it all the time. All right, pretty much whatever is the most negative opinion about something is usually what it wants. Keeps you doom scrolling. Yeah, everybody, like, I mean, people really want to know how it is that their life is going to be destroyed and screwed up and messed up and all that other stuff. And I think the reason why they like that information is because if you were aware of it, then you feel like you could do something about preventing it from occurring, right? So like you look for the danger out there so that you can protect yourself from it. But very rarely do people realize that by looking at the danger, they are putting themselves in a fear-based consciousness that then denies them the ability to grow and do well and make the connections and all the other stuff that goes with it. So, all right. It's like my version of work gossip. All right. My reality is your reality. Just submit. Right. That's so true. They only pick the winners and losers that use debt. Some corporations don't need debt. I would like to understand salvation. Excellent question. The egg question: why eggs half price in Mexico? It's probably because eggs aren't necessarily an exported or imported product. It's probably all locally produced. And if your local production is hammered, then you're probably not going to have a good price on it. So, you know, I mean, I don't look into the egg conspiracy thing. We've already covered eggs in the past. Right? See, everybody thought that eggs at $8, $12 a dozen, what was it, 2 years ago or whatever it was, had to do with Federal Reserve money printing, and then all the eggs went back down to normal price once production came back. So all the excuse of money printing evaporated out of the egg inflationary scenario. Right? Again, it comes down to supply and demand. Not as good as self-custody, can be compared to paper gold for just a place movement. Are you guys talking Bitcoin? How you doing, all-nighter? I'm a sucker for YouTube and X-clickbait. Right on, Tom. All right. Love the stream, brother. Well, thank you very much. How about the U.S. doubles down on $20 trillion of debt, borrows that much more, uses it to purchase China, then uses the yield to make the asset pay back the loan? I don't know, man. That seems pretty out there. All right. Sailor trying to get governments to buy Bitcoin to keep his micro strategy pyramid scheme going a little longer. Debt is money, money is debt. Reduce debt, reduce money supply, not going to happen. Actually, debt is currency. Debt is currency, it's not money. Gold is money. Bitcoin is like money to a lesser extent, right? But money is not the same as currency. And debt is not money, right? I mean, fiat is debt. And that's important to understand the difference between it all. Because most of the time, people are sitting in a position in which that they look at like money and currency as the same thing when they're not. Money holds value over time. Currency does not. Currency is meant to exchange one good and service over for another good and service. And so to understand that currency is just literally that, to make the flow of goods and services happen. When we put the idea of money on currency, then we are giving currency a character that simply doesn't exist. It does not hold value. And so when we say, man, a dollar used to buy this back in the day and it only buys this today, or my purchasing power is diminishing over time, yeah, that's what currency does, right? Money's not supposed to act like that. Currency acts like that. So to understand that if we are operating with currency, expecting it to hold value, we are probably going to end up incredibly disappointed by that. So it's best to look at it as two different things. Debt is not money, and money is not currency. All right, why should China take dollars worth half of what they were worth yesterday? Why should they? Okay, it's not why should they, why will they? That's the question that you should ask, right? Because they have no other choice but to accept dollars, considering that they have written debts that are due in dollars. You want to see something that's really good? Go and become a member of the Uneducated Economist, right? You become a member of the channel. It's $1 a month, right? It hardly costs you anything at all. There is a ton of member-only videos that I have done. One of them is dollar funding stresses in China. Go and watch that video. It will explain all the reasons why the dollar is not going to fail anytime soon, and that China will be demanding dollars going into the future, and there is no doubt about that. Okay. And so, again, you can go and read it for yourself. I mean, it's a 20-page document from the Federal Reserve, literally called Dollar Funding Stresses in China. Or you can just go and watch the YouTube video that I had made in the members-only portion of this channel. So, why Google restricts gun searches is Bass Pro app that is hizzle for communism. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it myself. In fact, you know, it's kind of funny. I just recently had a video demonetized because I was talking about marijuana stocks. If you talk about firearms, if you talk about weed, if you talk about homeless, right? These are the three things that gets my channel demonetized, gets my videos demonetized. Not talking about New World Order, Not talking about, all the conspiracy theory stuff that could possibly be out there. All those things. No, none of that stuff gets a demon. Homeless, weed, and firearms. All right. And next thing you know, if I have any of those as the main topic of the video, demonetized every time. So it's just like I even have a hard time even talking about it, knowing that if I say it too many times, it will get demonetized. Yeah. Yeah, homeless too. In fact, and it's so crazy because you can have them do a manual review of the video because usually it's an algorithm that says, hey man, it's demonetized, it's not advertiser friendly. Then you have YouTube do an actual review of the video saying, hey, go find somebody to actually look at this and say whether or not it's advertiser friendly. And when it, like the last one that I did, because I was talking about investments into this cannabis stock industry, it was a totally legit video. There was nothing there that wasn't advertiser friendly. They realized that they remonetized the video. Of course, all the views had already taken place, so there's no money to be made after that point. However, when I had them go do the manual review of a homeless video that I had talking about the government should stop trying to help because they're actually hurting, that video was not advertiser friendly, and there was nothing. I watched the video several times. There was nothing inside of that video that would have given any reason for a demonetization of it, except they didn't want the information being delivered. Right? So again, it's just like if you're a good Googler, you'll get paid. But if you're not, if you're spreading information that they don't want spread, then you will get punished for it with the demonetization. Maybe even a shutdown of your channel if you do it worse, if you get really bad at it. All right. Don't videotape any homeless dudes. I didn't. I was literally talking about it and sharing articles. I don't video homeless people. All my videos are right here inside of this vehicle. I didn't go anywhere. I was right here talking. That's it. And they didn't like what I was talking about. I didn't show any video of anything. Next video, guns, weed, and the homeless, right? I know. I should do a video just based on that topic right there. Boom. I just found out I'm homeless this morning. Ooh, God, man, I'm sorry. There were some jobs I didn't apply for in the industry because I was afraid when I crossed the border I wouldn't be allowed to cross. Check and Chong forever? I think that was supposed to be Cheech. Alright, good times. Okay, typo. I get it, but been there and done that. Sorry, okay. Call it cabinless. Okay. Cabin. All right, good way to figure out what the status quo don't want to talk about. Yeah, it really is. And that's what's sad about like most of the stuff that I see out there is that when I see like really, really popular videos on YouTube or something, and I go and I look at the information and I'm like, man, this is so inaccurate. From all the studies that I have of monetary policies coming from the Federal Reserve, got the documents myself. I know my information. I know the credible threat theory. I don't need notes in front of me. I can deliver this information right from the heart. I've internalized it. So I know my information well. So when I see other YouTubers out there spreading misinformation and yet they get hundreds of thousands of views on their video, yeah, I know what's going on here, right? They want some information spread and other information they will not spread. Yeah. I mean, I could tell just simply off of some of the lumber videos that I was doing back in the day. I had by far the best accurate lumber videos that anybody could ever have possibly watched, yet I'm watching other videos out there talking about greed and manipulation and how the government is creating all this havoc and stuff within the lumber industry, spreading complete false BS information out there, and yet they're getting million views off of their videos. Right? The handful of people who actually watch my videos, the 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people who would watch my lumber videos at the time, those people were emailing me saying, dude, thank you so much. Your information saved me a ton. I can't believe how accurate you were with it. I mean, it was just endless. Right? I mean, I had so many people coming up to me going, dude, I don't know how the hell you were able to do it so well. And I literally was because of the position that I am standing in. I'm in the Pacific Northwest. I work a retail job. I know mill operators. I know loggers. I know distribution networks. I know so much of this industry, and I had so much access to it that there was no way that I couldn't see it. There was other people who were farther up the supply chain who couldn't see it the same way I did because they didn't understand the retail space. They couldn't see it from the retail side of things. They could see it from their distribution networks, they could see it from the futures, they could see it from all kinds of stuff, but they didn't have 100% of the information. And I'm not saying that I had clear 100% view of all of it. What I am saying is I had access to all of it. And because I had access to all of it, I was able to see things and ask questions and get the answers to so much what people had assumed out there, I knew, right? And so when I see this out there, when I see how YouTube works, when I see how the algorithm works, when I see how Google works, it is a pusher, a spreader of misinformation. It is a propaganda machine, straight up. It's nothing else but that. And so when an individual like me comes out here and pushes against the grain, and I see all these comments that are spreading the misinformation that they had Googled or seeing on other YouTubers who are Googling that same information, then I have the tendency to believe that, man, I must be over target. Right? All right, 522 people. Bro, they probably thought you were homeless. I don't care. I don't care. You know, George Gammon didn't care that I was sitting in my car. You know, Jason Hartman never said one thing about it. G. Edward Griffin didn't seem to care anything about me putting my videos out by sitting in my car talking about it. None of those people said anything about that. The only thing they asked me was, what's going on within the lumber industry? Do you have any new insight? That's what they asked me. I don't care if the people think I'm homeless. What difference does that make? Right? You know, I see people out there who have made hundreds of millions of dollars. I've met them. Right? Do you know how hard it is to go from zero to making $100,000 a year? How difficult of a task that is? See, once you make $100,000 a year, being able to get to $1 million is a lot easier. But getting to that $100,000 starting from zero with no business, no family, help, when any of that stuff. How many people out there can talk about how that happens? How you go from 40 years old, drunk, $20,000 in debt, have nothing going on in your life, to all of a sudden being able to pay your bills at will. Be able to travel wherever you want. Literally have money to go and buy whatever you want, whether you do or don't. How many people can talk about that? To be able to, in this day and age, in this economy, pull yourself out of zero to actually have something. How many people are doing that? Very few. They all tell you how they got there, how they already done it, how they did it back in the day when the opportunities were far different than they are today. They'll tell you all about that, but hardly any of them is going to step up and say, hey man, how do you do it today starting from zero? They are rich, but also humble, cool dudes. Absolutely they are, all-nighter. Every single last one of them are. And that's why, I brought them up, because none of them, they never asked me how much I have, what I do. They didn't care. I could have been homeless. They wouldn't have known that. They didn't ask about that. The only thing they were asking is what's going on within the lumber industry, because that's the question that they were asking. Right? And that's the information that I was delivering. The rest of it was what didn't matter, right? None of that, what I got going on. They like to see me do better as far as pushing business and stuff, but none of that mattered, right? They don't care about the car I drive. They don't care about the clothes I wear. They don't care about any of that stuff, What they care about is true, honest information. All right, credit spreads are at 26-year low since the 2008 Great Financial Crisis timeframe. For the increase of these spreads as a time mechanism for market crash, warning has considered considerably crashes near. All right, Costco employees start around $20 an hour, I think. Still good pay for retail, though. Let's build wealth middle class. Let's build wealth middle class makes thus country factories build in there. Build it there. Okay. Our networks wouldn't overlap if they weren't cool and humble dudes. I don't accept D-heads in my network. Absolutely, all-nighter. And that's what makes these guys so cool, right? Because there is plenty of people out there who are jerk assholes who don't look at, how can I say this? When you're at the Rebel Capitalist event, everything is about uplifting you. It's about getting you to level up. Everything is. All the people, all the speakers, everything about it is always about how can we help you, the information that you need, the ideas, the changes, whatever it needs to go on so that we can level up. That's what it's always about. It's never about, like, it's funny, you go to these things and they're not even really that political. Like, they don't, like, sometimes you'll hear, like, one of the speakers or something will go off about politics, but for the most part, they're not even political. Like, they don't even care about the politics of it. Right? They're saying, hey, what is it that you need in your life to figure out what it is that you need to do next to start stepping up? That's what all of it's about. And they're always, always so encouraging about it. You see, like, people will go up and ask a question and they will take it seriously, like, every time when sitting in the crowds at the cocktail parties or something like that. It's a great experience. Just texted with Wayne Smith letting me know George is live. I let him know I'll be there after this. That's networking, baby. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to give this one quits here in just a minute so we can all go watch George do his thing. And because, again, like, this is how we do it. We got to get the information from many sources. Everybody has little bits of information, and sometimes there's little pieces of gold nuggets that are buried inside of that we weren't expecting to find. So it's very important to listen to many different people when it comes to understanding economics, because each and every single one of us is conducting our own economy. Right? It's separate. If you're 18 years old trying to figure out what it is that you need to do to make it through life, or if you're 80 years old trying to figure out how you're holding on to what little you have for the rest of your life, these are two completely different decisions that you're going to be making with your stuff, right? In every way. Everybody has their own economy. You have to own your own economy, and that's really what this is all about. Get creative with words. The algo doesn't like it. It's fun. Yeah, that's true. That's one of the reasons why I believe George Gammon was calling it the cerveza sickness and stuff like that, is so that he wouldn't trigger those algorithms. And I totally understand why. Oh, balls. I'm 5 minutes behind on the live. All right. Learn to work on houses and cars. Yep, absolutely. What are you saying, Simon? I have the power from Grayskull too. Absolutely. All right, I assume the nuclear power plants still pay well. Yeah. All right, I have the power of Grayskull. I love He-Man. All right. Wait, say Elon, your views will rise crazy. Elon. I don't really care. I'm done playing their games. They want me. They can have my dead body. All right. He says, hello. Okay. You guys are awesome. This was a fun stream. 541 people watching with 197 likes. Most of the information was in the first 10 minutes of this video, so if you're catching the live stream now, maybe go back and watch the first 10 minutes. We were really talking just a hypothetical situation that's not really in existence yet now with this whole idea of a sovereign wealth fund. But to me, when I think about the experiences that I have had with corporations going bankrupt, the first thing that they do is they look at the balance sheet and the assets and figure out how it is that they are going to liquidate those assets. When I hear the Treasury Secretary say we are going to monetize the asset side of the federal government's balance sheet and then buy things like TikTok and Bitcoin and partner up with wealthy individuals, this sounds like a liquidation process to me, right? Or at least the idea of it. We'll find out. All right, that fund is for the people. Sweden has one. I understand the idea behind it. What I'm talking about is the reality of the situation. See, the corporate debt lending facility was supposed to be there to support the fallen angels. And what it ended up doing was creating an environment in which that zombie corporations could gorge on incredibly cheap debt. Nobody talked about that being the case, but that's what ended up happening with it. So the idea of the sovereign wealth fund and what it should do and what it's actually going to do are two completely different things. I have a tendency to step back and say, okay, what is going on here when you say that you want to monetize the assets, and then this guy says he wants to give it to China for an app called TikTok? I mean, these are just said. I mean, the Treasury Secretary just said this, and then the president followed that up. Right? I can't make this stuff up. This is what they said. Then he said he was going to get partner up with wealthy people, and then the idea of buying Bitcoin. So, you're going to buy a worthless app, giving money away to rich people, and then buy magic beans? I mean, is that really what's going on with this? I just saying. I mean, I don't think that's a good idea. But then again, I don't think anything the government does is a good idea. So what do I know, right? All right. It's called putting the dots together. Yeah, it really does. Makes sense, yeah. More on talking about things he has no idea about. Are you talking about me, or are you talking about Donald Trump? Because I'm just going off of the exact words that he uses on a hypothetical situation. So whether or not we're accurate on what we talk about, it doesn't matter, because it's all hypothetical anyway. Right? None of it's in existence. It's all credible threat. Just like the damn everything they talk about. Hey, thank you, Pigeon Post, for the $5 Canadian. In theory, would this sovereign wealth fund sell off U.S. assets or purchase foreign assets, or both? Couldn't tell you because it doesn't exist, right? And a hypothetical guess is we can put 1,000 what. I appreciate the super chat, bro. I'm not trying to, discredit your question, but this is the exact thing. It's a hypothetical situation that has no actuality to it. There's no reality to the situation. We can put what if and then have 1,000 of them. What if, right? None of it is real. So until we actually see the plan that they develop, there is nothing to discuss. This is all hypothetical. It's all a credible threat. There's no point in even internalizing the information, because none of it's real. Internalize real information, like the monetary policy coming from the Federal Reserve. That's real information. Right? And most people discredit that and then give something like this credit. It is just like, well, no, this is fake. None of this shit is real. It's all imaginary, right? It's all, hey, give us a good idea of something we can talk about in the future, because there's no plan. But then yet here the Federal Reserve is communicating their monetary policy through speeches in documents that are to the other central bankers that are not being talked about within the mainstream media, and people discredit that information, right? They say, oh no, they're lying. Right? That ain't real. Let's go and look at this hypothetical situation that they're talking about over there and internalize that. All right, guys, I would love to stay, but I have got to go. This was a lot of fun hanging out here with you guys. I would love to keep talking about this. This is a very important subject when you think about how many people are internalizing this as a reality. Okay? Understand that if they go through with this, they have already stated it. Monetizing the asset side of the balance sheet. What does that mean? It means liquidating it. And then what are they going to do? Give it to China for an app and buy some magic beans like Bitcoin, and then give it to wealthy individuals. That's what they have talked about so far. That has been communicated through the powers that be, right? Not the reality of the situation with the plan and a sign or anything else. This is them voicing their words about this situation. We're going to sell off the assets, give it to China, and buy magic beans, and give it all away to the wealthy people. It's sad, right? But this is it. This is what's happening here. All right. And it's not reality. Again, this is all hypothetical stuff that, again, is being spread through the mainstream media stuff. We should be watching monetary policy from the Federal Reserve, not paying attention to hypothetical situations like this. Okay, uneducated economist, you guys let me know.